Hello friends, welcome back. I'd like to take a minute to give a special welcome and thanks to my UK friends. I recently did a data study on my statistics for YouTube and my Facebook page, and it's overwhelmingly United Kingdom. The bars look like this for the United Kingdom, and about like that for the US, and about like that for Canada, and other little bars here and there for other countries. But apparently the United Kingdom is really in tune with these leading edge, cutting edge changes that we're going to be making for humanity, because these teachings are designed to shift the direction of humanity, to move them onto a different path that will open them up to freeing themselves from the astral planes where most people go, because a large majority of people, let's say New Age people, are all believing in reincarnation. And that belief keeps you attached to the earth, coming back again and again. Not that you come back as an avatar, but your belief that you come back as an avatar keeps you trapped in the astral. And so you never leave the earth environment because you have a belief you reincarnate. So that's been trapping a lot of people in the astral, and they're not been able to move up on their multidimensional blueprint, which you're designed to move up into higher levels of consciousness. The other thing is certain religious belief systems that, while they do believe they go to a heaven, there are nice areas in the astral worlds. If they don't have, for instance, I use Christianity, if you are not baptized by fire, we're not talking about joining a church, we're talking baptism by fire, you can't anchor into the lineage of Jesus that gets you on a track out of the astral into higher dimensions. So we are opening up consciousness now. It could take several generations, but we are opening up these ideas so that we can become more multidimensional and start to join the galactic universe, the galactic family out there of beings. So with that thought, I want to talk a little bit about the Syrian ship that I have been on frequently. I can call this the Syrian law ship, or a Syrian ship judicial ship. It's also where I do the pattern keeping work. And so one of the things that is on our dictionary, which is time cell, which I haven't talked about. About 10 years ago, I was shown these time cells that exist on the earth. They're like tightly wound springs. And every planet, because every planet has anchored life forms on it, is governed by time. And time, it has a limited amount of programs. So when I saw these springs, they were unwound by quite a bit. And they were on the very last part of their cycle. So we are coming to the end of this program. And periodically the programs are reset on various planets, and new ideas and new programs are initiated. I can't tell you how long it is till the end, but I'll just tell you the spring has unwound quite a bit, and it's just on the very last part of its cycle. That is why some of this information is coming through now, because we would like to shift where humanity can go by opening them up to multidimensional consciousness, which you have in your blueprint. You were designed to move up and down in frequency, up and down in density, because consciousness, as I've said many, many times, is attached to your blueprint. And we are avatars, and our soul is a container of consciousness that creates avatars with blueprints that are multidimensional, and our program is like a computer game where we move up the levels. You can also move down the levels, but this blueprint allows us to move up and down levels or densities or frequencies. So the Syrian ship, I want to talk a little bit about that because most people who are into UFOs are very familiar with more of the hard crash and burn UFOs, things you can touch. And that's more of a third and fourth density kind of vehicle, and we are very familiar with that. We're working with those kinds of beings. The Syrian ships, however, they are not like that at all. Syrians are not terrestrial. Beings who are terrestrial, meaning their feet and their mind are sort of anchored to a planet. They are bound in time, more or less, because they are time bound. They create reality different than beings who are not time bound. Syrians are not time bound. They are space beings, literally space beings. The Syrians that I know and have interacted with live in space, and they have these vehicles that house or contain groups of them. And this vehicle that I've been on, it operates in a way that it's multidimensional. The vehicle is multidimensional, and the vehicle has a way of collapsing like a domino effect, the densities or frequencies. So let's say it was in 6th density and it wanted to also be in 5th, 4th, and 3rd density. It has a way of sort of a domino effect of collapsing one density on top of another or one frequency on top of another and creating for itself a space where it is now vibrating in all of those densities simultaneously. So this ship that I've been on has multiple frequencies and densities within it. And it has a way to do this because it is a space vehicle. These beings live in space. They aren't terrestrial, like I mentioned. They are space beings. Now, when this Syrian ship manifests in our frequency, which is rarely, and it never can manifest its full view anyway. What we see when it decides to lower its frequency to our density, it's usually way out past our planet. It sits somewhere in a space where it doesn't disrupt the electromagnetic fields, because it can do that. The Syrian ship, when it manifests, what we first feel by a Syrian presence is a feeling like an earthquake inside of our body. All of our electrical fields and energy, electricity fields are shaking, and it feels like an earthquake inside your body. You feel the presence of a Syrian law ship. This is what I call them, or justice ships, judicial ships, or this is how I know this one ship to be. It's very ancient. My friends, the technology is way beyond anything. It's millions of years past us. But when it manifests for a brief time to visual perception, it looks like a cross in the sky. And really, I want to call that more like a star, but it's not a 5-pointed star. It's more like a cross. But it's pointed. The top of the cross is pointed, the arms are pointed, and then there's a long bottom that's pointed, more like the star on a star sapphire. When you see a star sapphire, like this is the stone, there's an image of a star on the front of it, but there's a whole gemstone behind it. So what we see in physical reality of a Syrian ship is just this little star piece. We don't see the rest of it. It only shows up briefly looking like that because it cannot manifest its full nature in our dimension. It would bend it would bend time and it would mess up magnetic fields. So it only has a little portion that it actually manifests. So I want to go back to the idea of understanding that these Syrian ships are multidimensional ships. Some UFO discussion has been that we have interdimensional beings coming in and out and interdimensional ships coming out. That is true, but because at some densities, the 4th, 5th densities, there are ships that can lower and raise their vibrations to enter and to come and go in our field. This is natural. We are designed to raise our vibrations, our consciousness, up and down the fields, the energy densities. So they have created ships that do this, but Syrian ships hold space in multiple dimensions simultaneously. So to move along with this idea, I want to say that as this time cell begins to unravel, the plan, from how I'm understanding it, is that this information that I'm giving, and there will be people, generations behind me, that can even do more details than I can do, but this is a beginning of a way to start shifting the focus of humanity away from being trapped in the astral worlds continuously and freeing themselves to move up into higher densities. So this is a lot of what my library has been teaching. We can move beyond the astral worlds. That's the over-identification with this physical body. When you are trapped in the astral after death, it's because you are attached to the body, attached to the people, attached to the idea of reincarnation, or you're attached to your lineage, long videos on that. Even if you believe you're going to a heaven, you still attach to your lineage. You believe your family's there. You look for your dead relatives when you pass over. You have this, you even have this idea that you're going to be resurrected as this body in the end time. So you never leave this atmosphere because you are so physically, mentally, and emotionally attached to this body, you won't let it go. So you don't. So the new shift for humanity needs to be, we are multidimensional. Consciousness is attached to the blueprint. Consciousness is not anchored in the body. Consciousness uses the brain. Consciousness uses the body. But consciousness is free to come and go up and down, and consciousness is free to create new bodies in new realities. And so if you ever want to visit like the Syrian ship, you can't visit in this body. Well, you could visit in this body if there was a space that was created on this ship. And I think there may be a space created on the ship I've been on where temporarily these kinds of bodies could come and go. So at a temporary basis that could take place. But you can't stay there any long period of time in a terrestrial body. No terrestrials, not humans, not other ETs that were born on other planets, because you're terrestrial bound, you're time bound, your frequencies, are not adapted to being a space being. Now you can be in space for a short time. That's why I'm saying you can go onto a Syrian ship in a physical body. And you can travel in space in a physical body. But to become a space being, you have to not be born on a terrestrial planet. And so this requires a consciousness that is focused on the blueprint in higher dimensions, where consciousness manifests bodies into frequencies and densities that are fluid and can raise and lower themselves. They can lower themselves into a body that is physical and can show up right here in front of us. But when they move along on this planet, they kind of float off the ground. They don't have feet of clay. The extraterrestrials that have feet of clay are terrestrials from somewhere. Syrians and these more advanced beings don't have feet that walk on the earth, so to speak. They may create a form that looks like that, but they more or less sort of glide across the top. And they can walk on the water, they can walk anywhere, they can walk through fire, they can do a lot like what Jesus did, for example. And so that's more of the discussion I wanted to do for today, was to explain the idea of more advanced extraterrestrial crafts, and to keep reminding us that we need to let go of our belief systems that keep us anchored to this earth. All of the stuff that's going on here, we are so primitive, friends. These squabbles we have with religions and politics and who likes who and this and that and all this addiction to sex and cravings and violence. I mean, it is just probably the most primitive planet in the galaxy. But that is not, I make that sound like a negative, but I'm just saying it is what it is. It can also be a very beautiful place to live in time. Time is not a negative. We enjoy time. Time was created for us to have a brief span of experience, but it's not eternal. Time is not eternal, but it is something that we experience as conscious beings for a short time, and we can enjoy it, and we can make our life beautiful and enjoyable in these brief spans of time. But we have to remember, we're really not time beings. We're really more space beings. And so that's all I wanted to say for today, and thank you for watching, and please like it if you enjoyed it, and please share this video. I'm trying to get this information out, and I also have a PayPal button to donate, because there's no other way that I'm paying all of this out of my pocket, and I would appreciate help. And I hope one day to get back to the UK. I've been there a couple of times, and I'd like to find a way to get back. So thank you very much, friends, and I will see you later.